Mike Bernard in with us on a Friday morning, as he always is. Mike, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Coach. How's it going up in North Alabama?
Doing really nice. Nice day today. Looks like could be a golfing type afternoon, and hopefully that will come to pass.
Oh, yeah. Well, make
Um,
birdies.
exactly. Well, listen. Speaking of making birdies, uh, Tom Brady and the Bucks. I just got to say this: is a little birdie has told me that Tom Brady has got to be PISSED the way that the Bucks season ended. So do you think he's going to be back or not?
Well, now that he's divorced, he doesn't have anything else holding him back. I mean, what else is he going to do? This is all he knows right now. He doesn't need the money,
Mm-hmm.
but why would he play last year, right? So I
Yeah.
think he's going to be back. I think he's going to be in the league, but I don't think it will be with Tampa Bay.
Really?
Mhm. That's what I'm hearing, that somebody's going to sign him. I don't know if it's Vegas or somebody. I mean, just for the mere jersey sales, it would be
Yeah.
worth the signing.
Yeah. Any chance that he has a makeup and goes back to New England?
There's always a chance, but no.
All right. Well, there's some teams that still have a chance this year, and they'll kick off tomorrow to find out who advances. 4:30 p.m. on NBC, Jags and the Chiefs. This is going to be Trevor Lawrence and Patrick Mahomes. Chiefs, of course, having I think they were the number one seed, so they had their bye. Listen, the Jags, they came back from what 27 nothing down. Trevor Lawrence actually, when you watch that first half, you're like, man, does all that success that he had in college, is it not going to translate to success in the NFL? But you know what? Tale of two cities, tale of two halves. Second half, he comes back out, redeems himself from those four picks, four touchdowns in the second half. He gets the win. And I think he's the first player in the history of the NFL to, in the playoffs, start out with four interceptions and came back and matched that in touchdowns, which actually I think he had five touchdowns, didn't he?
I don't have it in front of me. I know that they were down 27 to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, he couldn't have had five touchdowns because the final was 31 to 30.
That's
So,
right. So he came back with a four in the field goal, four touchdowns in the field goal. But again, this was a game where if a lot of people would have turned this off at halftime. As a matter of fact, yes. As a matter of fact, I stopped watching and just happened to see a ticker and saw, well, wait a second, that can't be right, and switched back over to it.
yeah, I had the Jags plus the points. Situational play, I looked at the game and said they're toast. And then went to sleep. And I was on the East Coast, so but a great comeback effort. Terrible coaching by Brandon Staley of the Chargers. The guy, I don't. We won't get into him
Yeah.
now. So Jacksonville gets that great comeback. Now they're playing in Kansas City. 50% chance of rain, precipitation, temperature in the 30s. Between not it's not frigid. It's not going to be in the teens or 20s. Chiefs are favored by 9, and the total is 53.
Um, going to be going to be a matchup, obviously, of two, and as crazy as it sounds with Patrick Mahomes, still a young talent. Mahomes led the league in passing yards and touchdowns. Remember, not that long ago, 2019 and 20, the Chiefs were in the Super Bowl. They beat the Niners and then lost to the Bucks, which was Brady's obviously last Super Bowl win. And for me, and I think a lot of other people, the Chiefs are the favorite to win it all this year.
They are. They're the betting favorite. And since they're a heavily bet team, their ATS record is surprisingly really bad. Okay. They've only covered 9 of their last 33 versus AFC opponents. They've only covered 1 of their last 9 home games. And I'm going to take the 9 points here and play Jacksonville. I know the Chiefs are great. I trust them, but not against the spread. They're just not good in against the number.
The late game, 8:15 Eastern kick on Fox is going to see the Giants and the Eagles, number one seed Philly, host their divisional rivals, the Giants. Just a few hours separate these two cities and franchises. The Eagles locked up the number one seed all the way back on January the 8th with a win over the Giants. And that final was 22-16. Giants had to win in Minnesota. They did. Quarterback Daniel Jones, he threw for over 300 yards and ran for 70 in that win over the Vikings. Jalen Hurts, he's been banged up the last couple of months. Some people say, he's 70%, but to me, I've seen Jalen Hurts. He's played in a lot of situations where he was banged up, and by his performance, you couldn't tell it.
Yeah, and when he's healthy, he was healthy in the first meeting between these teams. He passed for 217, ran for 77. They won that game in a blowout. It was 48-22. In the most recent meeting on January 8th that you mentioned, he played. He wasn't 100%. He only ran for 13 yards, didn't have any touchdowns. He had an interception. The Giants started Davis Webb at quarterback, so that game from a handicapping standpoint is really a throwout.
You and I, we've talked to Jalen Hurts all the way back when he first got to Tuscaloosa at Alabama and then transferring out to Oklahoma. Listen, and you and I both agree, nothing seems to faze this guy. We've seen him doubted time and time again. Alabama fans wrote him off, and of course, he went from the white horse to the jackass to back on the white horse at the end of his career. And it's so funny, even though he didn't win or he didn't finish his career at Alabama, boy, they sure do claim that guy. He's been compared to Tim Tebow, great athlete and super college player, but just can't translate that success to the NFL. Can't make the NFL throws that he needs to make, but we could go down for the next 30 minutes and list all the reasons that Jalen Hurts shouldn't be a great NFL quarterback. But guess what? He just keeps his nose to the grindstone and gets it done.
Yeah, he never gets too high. He never gets too low. He's one of my favorite college football players of all time. And it's mainly because of how he handled that transition from Alabama to Oklahoma. That was top notch. And little things that aren't out in the public, like when Carson Wentz was a total jerk when he's supposed to be, at some point mentoring Hurts. He didn't. Hurts never mentioned it. It came out from other sources later on after Wentz was gone. And look, as far as I'd say I grew up in Alabama, so I watched Alabama and Auburn football. And I would say, along with Ozzie Newsome, Hurts is probably – I know he finished at Oklahoma, but as far as players that you respect, he's in the top two. So, I understand a lot of people nationally give Alabama fans grief too because they are claiming Hurts as their own when he finished at Oklahoma. So, but as far as just forget who you pull for, you got to pull for the kid because he doesn't put anybody down. He does his deal and doesn't focus on the negative. And as far as this game, Coach, the Giants have covered 10 of 11 playoff road games. But you have to put these trends in perspective. The Giants haven't been in the playoffs in 5 years. So until, the Minnesota game, and Minnesota was a fraud. Giants have also covered 5 out of 6 meetings in Philly. But I'm not going to play the side. I'm going to go with under. I don't think the Giants are going to have that same success offensively as they did against, Minnesota, not against this Eagles defense. Plus the under's 9-1-1 the last 11 playoff games played in Philly.
Yeah, and listen, the Giants, Brian Daboll, asked him what kind of respect he has for Jalen Hurts. He coached the guy at Alabama.
Yeah, he has utmost respect for him. He knows. And look, sometimes you don't have the measurables, even though Hurts really did. He just couldn't make the NFL throws when he was at Alabama. But then he went over to Lincoln Riley, and all of a sudden he looks like Joe Montana throwing it around.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Sunday's games. The 3 p.m. game on CBS, what I think is the most intriguing matchup of the playoffs. It's the Bengals at the Bills. And of course, we all remember back on January the 2nd when Delmar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest on the field during the game. Obviously, thank the Lord, he's home, he's doing well, he's at the Bills facility every day. So again, but the cloud of what we witnessed on live television still hangs over this game. Right now, the Bengals, they're winners of 9 straight. The Bills have won 8 in a row. And everyone goes back to that January 2nd night. What if? What if? But hey, right now, both teams, the players that are going to be playing on Sunday afternoon, they've got to find a way, some way, to put that in the back of their mind and put all their focus on winning this game.
Yeah, and I think both teams have. And look, most years the Super Bowl runner-up really struggles the following season. Not this Bengals team. They're 12-1-1 against the spread their last 14. The Bills are really solid at home. They've won 7 out of 8 home games, but they've only covered 1 of their last 4 home games because they're laying big numbers.
Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, both of these quarterbacks, if you look at the start of their college careers, you would not expect them to be starting quarterbacks in an NFL playoff game. You wouldn't even have expected them to be in the NFL. Joe Burrow was buried at Ohio State under Urban Meyer. It just wasn't a good fit. Of course, he was Mr. Everything growing up in Ohio. It was naturally a transfer, but a choice for him to go play for the Buckeyes. You're in Ohio, who do you want to play for? You want to play for the Bucks, unless you want to go to Michigan. But and of course Josh Allen. Josh Allen couldn't even get a scholarship coming out of high school. But again, great career at Wyoming. So again, props for both these two guys. Again, sticking to their guns when things didn't go their way and found a place and a way for it to work for them. And again, I think that's what it's about. And that's what makes a great leader, especially at the quarterback position. Now, let's go back and talk a little bit about that cancellation back on January the 2nd. These quarterbacks, they've not played against each other. The last meeting was back in 2019, and that's when Burrow was leading LSU to a national title.
Right. This will be the first time they get to play against each other because of that cancellation. Mm-hmm. And for all the detractors and critics of the transfer rule, and there's some of it's warranted, but this weekend we have Jalen Hurts, we have Joe Burrow. He's not in the playoffs, but you have Justin Fields. You have all these players that are marquee players that would have been buried on a bench, right? Yep. And now we get to see their true talents because of that transfer rule. So let's keep that in mind. Bengals, they're red hot against the point spread. Bills have underperformed, but I'm going to lean to Buffalo here. And I'm not a fan, as you know, of laying 5 or 5.5 points in any football game, but especially the NFL. But I already bet Buffalo, and that's my pick for this game.
Mike, when I look at the 6:30 game on Fox, it brings back memories of Emmitt Smith and Troy Aikman and Steve Young. And I mean, back in the day, back when the Niners and the Cowboys were in the NFC Championship game just about every year playing against each other. And you go back, the first game between the Cowboys and Niners that really just changed this rivalry was, of course, Montana to Dwight Clark. 49ers, they were the upstarts under Bill Walsh. And that was the game that kind of turned the coin, so to speak, from the Cowboys being the dominant team in the NFC to the 49ers being the team in the NFC. Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, listen, he had playoff success with both these teams. I think didn't he win Super Bowls with both these teams?
I believe he did, and
Yeah.
I believe he returned kicks for touchdown for both teams, or picks, or both. I mean, he was phenomenal no matter where he played: Atlanta, Dallas, San Fran. And what was it Charles Haley that
Yes.
was the? I think he played for both teams as well and had success.
Yes, he did. You think it mentioned Bill Walsh, but man, Tom Landry, Jimmy Johnson, um, just Hall of Fame coaches, Super Bowl winners. This now it's not going to be like playing in Candlestick. Now they're playing in the friendly confines and the plush box seats and everything of in Santa Clara. But again, this is a classic rivalry. Dak Prescott leads the Cowboys. They ended, as we talked earlier, they ended the Bucs season and sent Tom Brady into shopping mode, so to speak, last weekend. The Niners, they had a bye.
Yeah, and Dallas, they got that win. They were favored on the road, which many were surprised, but not in our office too much. But Dallas has been up and down all year, Coach. They look great, then they get blown out by Washington. They look good, then they lose a game as a big favorite. Niners, they've won 10 straight, and a lot of people in my industry and the media, they keep waiting for Brock Purdy to fail. Like, well, this is the first time he's been in this situation. Let's see how he does. Well, he's passed about 5 tests so far, and he's probably going to win, or he could win the Rookie of the Year. And he only played in like 6 regular season games, but why would that matter? I mean, look where he's got them. They've got 10 straight wins. At least six of them were with him. Coach, we're in playoffs. Dallas has major issues, kicking game and offensive line.
Yeah, the kicking game, I mean, we can just start right there. I mean, they moved the extra points, back to, basically almost a 50-yard attempt, to try to create more excitement, because there was several seasons in a row where PATs were like over 99% in the NFL. And because, again, they're the best in the world, they should be. And they moved them back to 35 yards. And, yeah, we've seen, some misses, but nothing, I don't think, like they expected them to be. But listen, last week, Dallas missed 4 extra points in that win over
For
Tampa.
the first time since 1932. Did they even have helmets or face masks back then?
Not only that, and the goalposts were on the goal line back then too. So I mean, but that was unbelievable. It's rare that you hear of 4 missed extra points in a high school game, much less in an NFL game. But and of course, games like this, they could very well come down to the kicking game. But for this game to come down to the kicking game, Dallas's O-line, they're going to have to step up. They've been banged up. Dak's thrown 15 interceptions this season. That's tied for the worst in the league. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's getting a lot of pressure, and he's got to make some throws that he doesn't want to make. He's got to release the ball before he can get through his progression. And again, that's on the offensive line. So the offensive line, that's the number one thing for the Cowboys. They've got to step up. And then once that happens, then he's got to make good choices. He's got to protect the football. And if he doesn't do that, then there's no way that the Cowboys get a chance to advance to the championship game.
Yeah. If he does turn it over, I hope they go for pick sixes, because I played the over here. So I bet more unders than overs. But the Niners, they're normally stingy defense. They've given up 20-plus points per game the last 4 games. Dallas is very capable of points. They put up big numbers all year. Historically speaking, the last 11 meetings, the over is 8-3. So I played the over here.
Okay. Well, Mike, that's going to wrap it up for this weekend's playoff games. We'll be back Monday morning. You're back on with us, and we'll discuss the outcome. Look forward to the next go round where things get really interesting.
Yeah, and look, if we have if the chalk prevails, if the Bills and the Chiefs win, they're going to play in Atlanta.
Yeah, that's a that's a weird, and again, it all goes back from that game being canceled, and I can understand why I can understand why it was
Yeah,
canceled. It was the right call to make, but the way that this thing's played out, and I get it's not fair to the fans, but as far as a competitive advantage to either team, I think it's the right thing to do.
and here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that the NFL is going to use this as a test to see if they can get to like a Final Four type atmosphere where
Mm.
they have it in the future on neutral sites. But here's the thing. I mean, part of the NFL playoffs for years, we know we have dome teams now, but
Mhm.
for years is like, can you go to Lambeau?
Mhm.
Can you go to the Kansas City when it's 18 degrees and ice on the ground?
Yeah.
Right. So if you get to where it's in a Jerry's World or the Georgia Dome, you're going to lose that component of the NFL playoffs.
Yeah, and luckily, of course, both of those teams are used to playing in that frigid weather, so neither one of them would truly have an advantage over the other. They're probably saying, "Hey, great, we'll go to Atlanta and play inside. We'll be glad to."
Yeah,
Falcons aren't using it anymore, so I mean, it's open. It's available.
that's right.
Uh, but and again, we talk about that cold weather component, and I think that's what's going to get interesting when we go to that 12-team college playoff. Is all of a sudden big bad Alabama and big bad LSU and big bad whoever else from the Southeastern Conference. Now let's go up to Columbus, Ohio. Let's go up to Ann Arbor. Let's play in 7-degree wind chill weather. Let's see how that works out for you. And listen, I'm a son of the South, uh, but I can tell you from personal experience, it is a lot different when you tee it up in late November or early December, uh, up in the north, close to those Great Lakes, than down in the South.
Coach, remember one of my picks this year was was Arkansas plus the points at home against LSU, and the main factor in that game was that it was unseasonably cold. The
Yep.
temperature was in the 30s. There was snow on the ground. They messed up and turned the sprinklers on, or maybe did it intentionally. Who knows? But look what LSU, they were West Division champions, but they
Yeah.
looked like average at best, and they were cold. Remember uh, Daniels, the quarterback, had his hands in, he couldn't keep his hands warm. So
Mhm.
that's what you're going to see when we get to, I guess it won't be this coming up season, but it'll be for 24.
Yeah. All right, Mike, take care. Have a great weekend, and we will talk to you again on Monday morning.
Look forward to it. Enjoyed it.